Hello there, good evening, and thanks for joining us on another edition of the program National Talk. My name is Donald Weze, and we have two topical issues that we're going to be looking over tonight. And I am alone tonight on set. Joyce Jakada is somewhere out on official engagement, and wherever she is, we do hope that she will be successful in that endeavor. And meanwhile, we wish you all the best. And as usual, don't forget that at 7:30, we shall open the lines for you to contribute on the topics that we shall be fielding tonight. The first topic, of course, that we're going to be fielding has to do with the increase of tenancy payments that the Federal Inland Revenue Service has asked Nigerians to pay. That is, if you want to be a tenant or you are going to be a lessee or a lessor, depending on what you want to do, and so many other developments as they unfold in terms of income generation and taxes as regards issues of social nature. That's one of the issues that we're going to be looking at tonight. And subsequently also, we shall be discussing on deaths on Nigerian roads, the deplorable condition of Nigerian roads, what is responsible for it, how are we going to solve that problem, where is the role of the citizen, where is the role of the government. All these and much more on National Talk. And it is my pleasure welcoming my guest in the studios tonight. He is someone that is a popular person here on the Plateau. He is the immediate past Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, the Right Honorable Joshua Izang Madaki. Right Honorable, you are welcome to our studios.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Well, so far, so good. Yeah. Let's take off from this end. Okay. You are out of the kaleidoscope now.
Yes.
No longer number 3.
Sure.
And how has life been all this while?
Well, my brother, I can say to God be the glory. It has been always a great privilege to every human being who is privileged to have the opportunity of serving the public in every capacity. And apart from the privilege of service, it is one thing also of great pleasure that you end your tenure successfully with the people and you retire back home to continue with life, both personal and official, because there is no retirement in this our engagement.
Yes.
So, but we thank God everything is moving well. We are grateful to God for sustaining us up to this time. And we are following after all the things that are happening both behind us and till death.
Yes, it's interesting to sit this evening here. I know that we have made quite attempts to grab you when you were in office, but God works in mysterious ways, they say.
Yes,
now, the first issue that I want us to just jump into quickly has to do with the issue of the stamp duty increase from a few percentages. Now it's 6% that people are supposed to pay. As a former legislator, I want to find out whether you feel now as a Nigerian who is no longer in the legislature, how do you feel about this increase?
Well, of a truth, I think it was just last week or sometimes last week, this issue became a national topic of discourse in our own country, Nigeria, where the Federal Inland Revenue is bestowed with additional powers to charge 6% tax rent revenue from tenants to be paid to government as revenue. And indeed, this is a very hot topic of discourse to the nation because a lot of people now begin to contemplate. Now, as a former legislator, if you look at this situation, although they derive their powers from the existing laws that we have under the Stamp Duty Act, which is a legislation that exists and binds in the country, and there are also a provision under the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2004, certain provisions under such a legislation. Act gave them the stamp duty and Federal Inland Revenue the powers to make such charges. Before this latest pronouncement on issue of tax rent tax payment by tenants to government as revenue, in the past actually there was a little aspect of it that existed, and that has to do only with transactions that has to do with mortgages. And in terms of every mortgage transaction, there such provision applies, and that is the aspect that is well pronounced before now. But now asking an ordinary tenant to remit 6% tax rent to Federal Inland Revenue, I think this is indeed putting myself in the shoe of a common Nigerian. It is a practice that will really suffer a lot of ignorance, because people will find it difficult to understand where such a legislation is coming from. Now, in quote, looking at the cost of living in this country, if you have been a manager of property, you will know what the experience is like. A lot of tenants will be owing the landlord for almost 1 year, and it makes the landlord runs out of patience to the extent of forcing himself to take a decision of ejecting them out of the property and even demand payment of arrears of rent. Now when you bring the issue of 6% tax rent payment to government, you begin to wonder how really Nigerians will meet up.
Right, Honorable?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's bothering me because I have had to grapple with a lot of some of the issues that you just raised. One, for instance, it is the Federal Inland Revenue Service that is bringing up this new tax regime, so to speak. And we have a Plateau State Inland Revenue Service. At what point, me, a private individual, going to someone who owns property and he asks me to pay for rent, it is expected that I am to pay 6% of the total amount as tax. That is to that private individual. He is not a legal entity. He is just an individual who owns a property. Now, the usual style in the Nigerian nation is that landlords now hand over their properties to legal minds, lawyers, to manage such properties for them. And the legal mind would now say, okay, he has his own percentage commission. Now, God help the would-be tenant if he didn't go through a lawyer. He's going through one excuse housing agent. And there are a lot of touts in town. And he now has to pay some percentage again. So at the end of the day, is it not double jeopardy for the person who is aspiring to just occupy a house? Because it's like he's going to end up paying much more than the 6% we're talking about here. He may likely pay up to like 10-20%. Because landlords will always ask you, you're going to pay 2 years advance. So if you're going to pay 2 years advance, calculation, simple mathematics, is 12% of the total cost, plus
the commission.
What's your take on that?
Well, honestly, my brother, just like I started saying, it's a situation that we all have to sympathize with the way we found ourselves in this country, that such a legislation is coming even when condition of living is being worsened by this pandemic. Now, people who live on businesses, people who even live by earning monthly salaries, and people who are artisan workers, they go to work and get paid before they sustain a living with their family. Everybody is affected by this recent legislation or pronouncement by the Federal Inland Revenue. And just like you said, most of landlords now hands over their properties to agents,
yes.
apart from those who actually goes through lawyers. And for lawyers, it is even more safer, because at the end of the day, there is what we call tenancy agreement,
yes.
that will be drafted and be given to the tenant, where everything will be specified, including the payment of the 6% tax, rent tax payment that is being advocated at the moment. You go through it and you submit if only you are willing to become a tenant, because everything is contained. And where you entered into an agreement of tenancy willingly, such charges are binding on you to remit to government, because this is what the law actually specifies. So, but now, looking at the whole thing holistically, we know that hands are not all equals. A lot of people will suffer regrettable setback because of this very provision of the law that has come over us as a nation. Because, like you rightly said, the basis of earning differs, but it is binding on a tenant who submits himself into an agreement that specifies these things contained in that agreement, and you execute that agreement between you and the lawyer of the landlord, or between you and the landlord directly. That binds you. But then, how many Nigerians actually go into that kind of advanced tenancy? That how many landlords also hands over their properties to the lawyers? Because some of them are looking at even the 10% that the lawyer will charge from the payment of whatever accrues from individual landlord. Lawyers are entitled to take 10% of the proceeds of the rent payment from the landlords, or from the tenant who pays through him to the landlords. And then the tenant as well now takes 6% to federal inland revenue. And in some situations, you discover, because of the difficulty landlords experience with tenants after you allow someone pays for 1 year, renewing his rent in the second year becomes an issue. So now landlords are like becoming more wiser. They ask tenants to remit or advance at a go, not less than 2 years tenancy.
Now, part of the statement concerning this particular issue is that the duty is 6% of whatever the amount of tenancy or lease is. This additional cost, however, will be borne by the tenant or individual obtaining the lease, while the responsibility of remitting to the Federal Inland Revenue Service falls on the property owner or agent. Is the Federal Inland Revenue Service having enough capacity to go around the whole of the Nigerian nation to collect this 6%?
Honestly, they do not. From the manpower they have, if you look at it, let's start from there. They do not have such a capacity to implement or execute the implementation of this provision of the law, except if they are willing to transform their own agency for better and effective performance. Now, looking at the nature of settlements of Nigerians' houses in particular, there are areas that belongs to the commons. And in those areas, even NEPA bill is a problem. Even water board charges is a problem. So for any staff of the Federal Inland Revenue to go into such settlements and begin to insist on implementation of 6% rent charges, you know, of course, that anarchy is what will emanate from such a situation. So looking at the setting, in other climes where everything about housing, settlements, and every form of layout and building structures and everything has been adequately not compromised by government, you see goods estate layouts and everything's well specified. It makes you easier, because you know the block you are heading, you know the occupant, and you follow serially until you finish the whole of such an estate. But where you come to areas where the settlement is such that looks like that of the common citizens, honestly, there is going to be a very, very big problem in terms of implementation of this very. And if you allow tenants, no Nigerian tenants, especially those who fall at the lower level of earnings, it takes them even time to raise the rent. You cannot, on their own, they might not even want to know whether such a law charging 6% tax rent exists. And they cannot submit themselves to Inland Revenue willingly to go and remit such a rent charges.
Yes,
so
right,
these are the
Honorable.
difficulties.
Yes, we have to stop here so that we can go on to the next issue. But for the benefit of our viewer there, let me quickly read out some of the demands that the Federal Inland Revenue Service is saying. Why an additional 6% stamp duty? According to Mr. Ahmed, who is the spokesperson of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, he says the amount payable is necessary because it gives the tenancy or lease agreement the legal backing required and makes it legally binding on all parties involved. It is also a means to generate more revenue for the government. Now, concerning property, other types of duties are conveyance or transfer on sale of property, 1.5%, gift of land, 1.5%, memorandum of understanding related to land sales, joint venture, surrender, subdivision agreements, 1.5%, power of attorney, irrevocable, land related, 1.5%, and sales agreement, 1.5%. That's what the Federal Inland Revenue Service has reeled out for Nigerians. And if you are involved in any of these ones, you know that you are going to have to pay that tax. Well, so much for the stamp duty issue. We now want to talk about this one that is really dealing with the Nigerian nation. And it is nothing more than debts on our roads. Why do we have so much debts on our roads?
Well, my brother, the situation in Nigeria is always pathetic compared to other, countries. If you've ever traveled, you will agree with me that in the first place where we missed it as a nation and we are suffering the consequences is that we always seems to be eager to compromise on standards.
All right.
On standards. If you look at the nature of Nigerian roads, it is not the issue of maybe absolute bad survey of the road, but it is the issue of standard of construction. You look at roads that was constructed in less than a decade, but it has dilapidated beyond recognition. And why so? Look at the heavy amounts of money that federal government is budgeting from the Federal Ministry of Works and Transport on issue of Nigerian roads. It will be amazing, my brother, that the roads that were constructed by the past regime, before the end of this second regime, those roads are under their need of attention of repairs. So, under even this present administration, the roads they are busy constructing now, before the end of another administration coming after this, you discover that such roads are as if they were not constructed in the initial place. Most of the parts of the roads will be in need of attention. So it lack of absolute compliance to standard specifications of construction works. And we easily compromise, and that is why we are suffering today.
I know that there is the issue of compromise, but in this instance, who is compromising? Is it the contractor who has the responsibility of doing a job? Because anybody who gets to be appointed by government or wins the bid to construct any road has to go through the proper channels, and then after that. Of course, I know that he will have to give a bill of quantity, bill of this, bill of that, and then they now go on site. They, in fact, even receive mobilization, and they begin to construct roads. I wouldn't say it is government, because government has already done her part by giving out the contract. So now the contract now is between the contractor, who has the responsibility of building the road, and then the engineer or the supervising engineer. Who is compromising? Is it the person who is supposed to supervise the work and say, this construction work that you have done is bad. This is the standard, you do it. Or something is happening behind the scene that we are not seeing. Because it takes two to tango. If the road is bad, by implication, as you said, roads are constructed, it's like without thinking into the future that it is likely heavy-duty vehicles are going to ply this road. And so roads get bad very, very quickly. So there is a compromise going somewhere. Please, let's expand it a little bit.
Well, you see, in our existing laws, we have 3 standards of roads: the Trong A, Trong B, and Trong C.
Okay.
And in the awards of every contract that falls under these 3 categories, the specifications can never be the same. If you apply the standard of Trong B on A, definitely the road will not survive. And the same thing, Trong C can be applied on B. So now, in the general execution of roads contracts in this country, you will find out as if there is a uniform standard for all sorts of roads. And that is why they cannot last. You can't expect an interstate road to be of same standard with roads that connects one local government and the other within the states. They varies because of the heavy duty that they carries are not the same. So honestly, there are a lot of things that are happening when it comes to roads construction projects.
Yes.
When it comes to paper, everything is in absolute compliance to standards and specification. But it is in the execution proper where the problem lies. Delay of payment of contractor, you have given him deadline to meet up. He has added a lot of resources in order to meet, and at the end of the day, he does whatever he feels like doing. That is why if you see of recent, you see governors going to inspect construction of roads and they carry digger in order to test
and see
the strength and quality of the work. And at times it is instantly embarrassing because on hitting it once, it gets to the end of the tire and everything is off. So what more of a truck that comes over its daily basis? You can't even count the number. So truly, those roads have become death traps. Now, if you look at what Nigeria is sinking generally, like of recent, the Sukuk Bank loans that was obtained
of about 100 million.
100 billions of naira to be sunk on roads construction across all the geopolitical zone, which is a very, very wise idea. But the issue is, after constructing those roads with this Sukuk Bank, can we as Nigerians compare the standard of those roads with those constructed in the days of PTF?
You are bringing up something that is really interesting because Nigerians are worried. First, we have a situation where roads are constructed and they are bad, and because they are bad, they now constitute a reason why there is a lot of money being spent by pliers of these roads, whether drivers or owners of vehicles. So the percentage of maintenance of the said vehicles itself is on the high. The maintenance of the road is also on the high. Now, where is the way forward? What do we do?
Now, what we need to do as a nation is to open up to the truth. We understand where these things lies. Now, if I will have my way, after I have awarded contract, there will be another agency, supervisory agency, that is involved of highly qualified and sophisticated technocrats and experts who will have to give a recommendation that indeed, if it is this road, I can undertake every other standard requirement that is expected has been complied with, and I can guarantee.
You are right, Honorable.
But if you allow the awarding ministry, what else will they do? after they have disbursed all the money and the work is done, they clear it because they are looking after more work that will come their way.
I wanted to bring up this one. The Council of Registered Engineers of Nigeria, COREN,
Yes.
is a body of engineers
Yes.
that has a statutory responsibility, I think, to now make sure that anybody who has their certificate is now working in tandem with the standards that are set, whether it is road construction, whether it is building construction, whether it is bridges or whatsoever kind of construction. But it is rather unfortunate. It is rather unfortunate that we have a situation where it's like people who have the responsibility of clearing projects that have been done by government are only clearing such, and then they are not reprimanded, because if, for instance, there is a road crash and it results in the death of people, VIOs or Federal Road Safety Commission people would obviously want to come and find out, is it a technical problem with the car? Is it the driver's fault? Or it is as a result of the road?
Bad roads, yes.
Now, if it is the result of the bad road, who is the engineer that cleared that road certified to be plied upon? I've not heard of any engineer anywhere that has been reprimanded or his license being withdrawn for approving a short job. Let's jump forward. Those who are applying the roads, the drivers, we know that there are reckless drivers on the Nigerian roads. Now, I want you to bring in the issue of those who have responsibility of overseeing our roads. I'm talking about, for instance, if it is a federal road, FEMA is there. Recently, on the plateau, there's this exercise currently going on by the current government, Operation Zero Potholes. And there are roads on the plateau already that enjoyed this Operation Zero Potholes, but the rains are here. They are already gone back to the old thing. So somebody has to be held responsible. I think that you, as someone who is a former legislator, would be able to give us some insight as to maybe some of these things.
Well, of a truth, if you look at a road that is damaged, there are some of them that will at least demand a little touch of repairs, and it solves the problem. But some of these roads that have existed for decades and the potholes have taken over the roads, there is no amount of control measure you will apply to such a road and it gives you the desired result. And that is why you see government is spending heavily on issue of potholes. Potholes maintenance is gulfing billions of naira. The same thing applies even to federal roads, to the extent now they have created the Federal Roads Emergency Roads Maintenance Agency, FEMA, in order to manage the sustainability of the federal highways. Even at that, we are still back to square one. Because whatever sports they attended to, it only lasts a season. By the time the rains comes, everything opens up. In fact, beyond even the states it were before they fix the problem. So a lot of resources are going. Instead of all these control measures, I expect that government should be able to see reasons where it is necessary that the road should be cut off and be relayed and be well tarred and fixed
with the original standard that it was. Because I know that there are roads all over this country where some of the in the good old days, when a certain company was seen building a road, people relaxed because they say that for the next 19, 20 years, 30 years, this road will still be as good as it is being constructed today. I do hope that something will be done, but we have to go on break. Then when we come back, we are going to now go over and look at the other side, because if the roads are made good, then it will be, of course, either the vehicle is bad or either the driver
or the
is not
vehicle is
certified
faulty.
or something. So we are going to discuss this aspect after we go on break.
It's all right.
Viewer, if you're just joining us, it's National Talk, and we shall take a break now and return, after which the lines will be opened so that you can contribute your own side of the story. Stay with us. It's National Talk. Hello, you're on to National Talk.
Share your views on National Talk, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Thursdays and Fridays. Calls only.
Also in the segment of the morning show where we bring you reviews on some
communities and considering the fact that
a lot of animals to do one thing or the other. Yes. So far, so.
who knows, which doesn't speak well of us as a nation.
traditional medicine for COVID-19.
The president, that's Buhari,
It's still enough for me, because I can't
take the protection of the rights of Nigerians really.
If you're just tuning in, you're welcome back from the break. This is National Talk from ECWA TV Africa. I am Donald Weze. I still have Right Honorable Joshua Izang Madaki, the immediate past Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, and he's fielding his thoughts on Nigerian roads and the deaths that are occurring daily. I said we're going to go into another aspect of this particular topic, being that there are still a lot of deaths going on our roads. We know that if the roads are made good and accidents still occur, somebody must be responsible. What's your take?
Well, of a truth, definitely, if there are occurrence of accidents, someone must be responsible. And you see, in a situation we find ourselves as a nation, despite the fact that we must in a way commend the efforts of the Federal Road Safety, who are always there on the highway in order to regulate excessive speeds. But at times, the kind of drivers...
All right, the kind of drivers. Let me take this one. Hello?
Hello, National Talk.
Yes, good evening. Who is on the line?
Hello, sir.
Please reduce the volume of your television set and call back. Thank you. All right. Fault of the drivers.
So, the kind of drivers we have now, in Nigeria, it is only a country where you see everybody jumps into the roads.
Yes, hello?
Hello, this is Ali from Gwagwalada, Abuja.
Ali from Gwagwalada, Abuja. Good evening.
Yes.
This is National
Good
Talk.
evening, sir.
Talk to me.
See, on that side, our road in Nigeria is very bad, especially in Gwagwalada.
Okay, go ahead.
Please let us talk to our leaders to help us to repair the road.
Okay.
Gutter everywhere. It's choke up.
All right. So thank you so much for calling and sharing your thoughts with us.
Okay, thank you, sir.
God bless you. Thank you. Yes, drivers.
So now, the kind of drivers we have, majority of them are uncertified drivers. And nobody trains them. They don't know the rules of the roads on the highways and even local roads. That is why you see, even in a city center like Jos, an accident can terribly occur because of the fault of a driver.
All right, fault of the driver. Another call is just coming in. Hello? Yeah, good evening. Hello, I can hear you. Yes.
And some of these drivers need to be subjected to the test by this drugs law enforcement agency.
Yes, sorry, another call is coming in. Hello? 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 Okay, go ahead.
They need to be subjected to routine tests by these drugs law enforcement agencies as to whether there is content of substance in their body system. Because we can't rule the fact that some of them, before they go into highway, they help themselves with certain substances before they will now think they can see clearer or they can speak proper. And how can a driver time himself? I'm leaving just by 12, before 3 o'clock or so, 2:30, I should be in Abuja. But you know, all of these are factors.
Yes, hello, good evening. This is National Talk. Yeah. Who is talking to me? Hello? Good evening. Please switch off that television behind you, then call. Thank you. Yes.
And again, I will recommend the presence of VIOs in all commercial motor parks.
Yes.
Some of these vehicles are not under any check. The drivers are just after, let me go and come back and tomorrow I go. And how much do I raise in a week or in a month? Nobody cares to say, okay, I won't go to work today so that I will take my car for inspection and necessary checkup.
All right.
So these are also tendencies.
I have another call coming in. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Evening, sir. How are you, folks, sir?
Oh, fine, thank you. Who is on the line, please?
Yes, this is Dauda Hamza from Kano.
Dauda Hamza from Kano. Talk to me.
Yes, honestly, I want to use this opportunity to talk about the main road that is from Kano to Abuja.
Kano to Abuja Road. What's the problem there?
Yes, honestly, the problem with that road is, the road is under construction for more than 3 years, and government will not be able to finish it, and we are losing a lot of stores. So please, I want you to talk about this issue so that government should do something about it, because we are losing a lot of friends and family over that road. Please, and please.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling and sharing your thoughts with us. Kano Abuja Road.
I'm from Kano, local government. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of souls have been lost. Kano Abuja, the new express road, it's still under construction.
You see,
yes,
those things are bound to cause havoc, because once there is a time limit to which a contract should be completed, everything possible should be done so that it will be completed. Prolonging it expose the citizens, or the citizens becomes vulnerable to all this sort of accident. Some because of the dust that is coming up from the road, some even the potholes. And
yes, okay. Hello? Hello? All right. Go ahead.
so most of these factors are capable of causing accidents. And some will not even mind the fact that the road is still under construction. They don't know at which controlled speed limit should they be moving on such uncompleted roads. And you see, the country we live is such a funny state that in the past 2-3 years ago or so, I learned road safety brought in a device, speed limit control device, that all vehicles are expected to have, so that it regulates, it makes you checkmate the speeds at which you are moving with your vehicle. But Nigerian resist such devices.
I have this question. It's like Nigerians have this penchant to just break the law. why am I saying this? You hear people say, okay, I have gone to certify myself, because that's one of the major problems. You see even underage children driving on our highways, how much more when they take substances, which is one of the major reasons why we have road crashes. But another reason, I think, is the speeding, which you are just mentioning.
Yes.
Apart from the speed device that would, whether you like it or not, it controls the speed of the vehicle. Any other thing that should be done, like possibly reorientation or something?
Of course, reorientation, and the government should see it beyond all this union thing. In each of the states, there should be a special agency, like the whether it is the VIO or the traffic, whatever. Give them the powers to under a compulsory, capacity building trainings and seminars to most of these people. Some of them, they don't even know when last they attend those things. And what you know while driving 30 or 10 years ago could not be the same with what is obtainable at a moment. You need a lot of things that will update your understanding. And now, even when you are driving, you are even not afraid of yourself. You are more afraid of any other innocent person who will just come and cause problem for you on the highway. So that is why you see now, safety is what people now are advocating. You drive while you are cautious of whatever could come your way. So honestly, we have a lot of measures to put on ground. Looking at our level of literacy in this country, and most of people who actually found themselves into vacations of driving are people who actually maybe have one or two disadvantages. Apart from some actually who are graduates and in the absence of anything doing, they resort to driving as a professional career. So, and only few of them could understand actually what the rules of the highways and the modern things that they need to know because of the absence of continuous seminars and workshops that could be given to them in due course.
Honorable, I was going through some literature, and one of such said that the Nigerian nation is one of 3 nations on earth that has the largest land mass. And the Nigerian nation today has over 200,000 kilometers of road, either trunk A, B, or C roads spread across the Nigerian nation. But it is very interesting. I observed this on Nigerian roads, that it is now that the Nigerian roads are beginning to be expanded. It's like technology is taking over how we do constructions around here. But in communities, in state capitals, for instance, Jos, the capital of Plateau State, you have been the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly. What type of legislations were you able to do or bring up to address the issue of roads? Back then, they were very big, wide roads. Today, they are just, even if you remove the center embankment, it's still equivalent to just one road compared to the modern roads. Are there legislations that are on ground that you came across when you were in office that would have helped government? Because government, they say, is a continuum. So is there any legislation that you have done that would address some of these things that we're discussing now?
Very well. Honestly, while we were in office, we attended to a legislation that gives more powers to the vehicle inspection officers and also gave more powers to even the Nigerian Federal Road Safety, because there are instances where you see a lot of conflicts of duty between them and even these roads unions and the rest of them. So that legislation was brought to us, especially on issue of registration of vehicles and the rest of them, and even the enforcement of traffic offenses. So we attended, I think there was a law that we attended to in the 8th Assembly, and we passed it in order to add more powers to some of the agencies we felt they could do better in that respect. And it was that same legislation that resolved some of the conflicts that existed between one agency of government and the other. So most of these things are there. And if you look at the nature of a city, an old city like Jos, and almost all the cities that we have who must have outlived 50, 30, 40 years. Now the challenge you have with expansion of roads to dual carriage and the rest of them, if from inception they were not envisaged to be like a dual carriage roads, now construction have taken over all the advantageous road sites because of the expansion of the city capital. And by the time you said you want to dualize certain aspect roads, honestly, what it will cost government is such that with the kind of dwindling resources, government on its own cannot be able to. But rather, instead of, even if we can be able to dualize certain roads so that they give advantage for wider carriage of vehicles, we also need interconnectivity of roads within the city capital. Now, if you look at what we are experiencing in a place like this, British, it is lack of interconnectivity of roads, that every time you come, you get yourself trapped because of the jam lock that you experience. So if such places are considered, states can work on it by proposing such places in their incoming year's budget, and at the end of the day, make alternative connecting roads so that it will save all this jam lock of traffic, and in the cost of it, trucks who are also plying such roads because of failure of brakes and everything, they run over every other vehicle that is on the traffic and causing a lot of havoc again to the nation.
I like what you just said, because articulated vehicles, or these trucks and the bigger buses, isn't it the proper to find like a new legislation that controls the movement of some of these vehicles? I give you an example. There is a road on the plateau in Jos, the capital of the state, from the Hill Station Junction going down Joseph Gomog Road towards the Polo Runabout. And almost every month, if not fortnightly, a truck must crush
People in that
people, and especially at the roundabout. Now, what type of legislation would you proffer to solve this kind of problem? Because it's all over the nation. I saw something on the social media where a truck, a tanker of petrol, I think, ran over this tricycle that we popularly call keke napep, and severed a human being into two. And someone now, because people don't even regard life around here as sacrosanct, so to speak, now snapped the gory picture and sent it on the superhighway so people can watch and see that somebody was crushed by a truck. Is there no legislation that we can bring up to control the movement of some of these vehicles, that they can only get into metropolitan cities at certain hours of the day? There
are possibilities of making such laws, but the whole thing bounces back to the willpower to actually implement such laws. Because some of these drivers on their own, they are stubborn naturally. They don't want to respect anything called law. But if the willpower is there, there is none of them that will succeed, because upon you violating such an existing law in a state, you know what it causes you. And a state like Plateau, where we have about 3 to 4 good entrance roads to the state and exits, now you could find a waiting depot in each of those roads. Any vehicle that is carrying loads that will want to come, and the final destination is the city capital, you wait over in that waiting destination until when it is like late evening, you come, offload your things over the night, and before early morning hours, you're out of the town. Back to the depot, and then before you take off, or you finally take off. So, but those regulation doesn't exist. In a broad daytime, you see heavy petroleum tankers are battling to maneuver the roads with smaller vehicles. And the kind of risks that these trucks stands to contain, the smaller vehicle doesn't have. Because a small vehicle, before your brake will fail you, you must have noticed one or two things as an indication. But now these ones will you could just find it now, and later all of a sudden you'll be searching and it is nowhere to be found.
Yes.
And eventually you have no choice than to face the consequence danger that is ahead of you.
All right.
So, and that actually cause a lot of havoc and deaths, even in the city centers that we have. So, but in some states where the willpower is there, you see effective control measures put in place that there is no way you could go in violation. In fact, you yourself know the dire consequences that will come after you.
Yes.
So that is why at times we advocate, apart from the fact that yes, state houses of assembly make legislations, who enforces the legislation that the state assemblies made? Most of the enforcement agencies are federal inclined agencies. And that is why in some states like Lagos and other states now created this task force, the LASMA,
Yes.
who are bound to implement every state-made law. They have specifications of areas of engagement, and the other ones are taking the order. But if you look at a state like ours, we do not have such. If to say we have a civilian or a very formidable task force, all this issue of motorcycles in the city, all this issue of roadside trading and everything, in fact, all of these things would have overcome them. But in the absence of this thing, these enforcement agencies, they are human. At times they go compassionate.
Yes.
They will just be there for a while, and thereafter they subpedal, and the whole thing bounce back to operation again. So honestly, we need to wake up and put a lot of effort in order to contain the kind of hazards that people are facing through both in our highways and even in our city centers. Now we are not safe.
All right, we have just a few minutes to go. Let's talk about this that is very interesting to me. The roadworthiness of the vehicles themselves.
Well, that is another thing that honestly we have a lot to go, including both the government commercial vehicles that are on the highway now, the private, every sector of commercial transport. You will check carefully. You will see that is where the problem lies. In the mix of the bush, the car will just go off. And at the end of the day, the driver have to come and struggle, if he even know how to attempt to struggle and fix it, or else calls for help from somewhere. While in this unsafe situation that we have found ourselves,
yes.
you see, nobody will be comfortable while you are on the highway and your car breaks down. The kind of fear that will come into you is more than even the situation of the condition of the car. So these are things that we really need to put in measures, whether you like it or not. These vehicles are made to live for a particular lifespan. And once you force them into going further than that, there is no way it will work. So some of them whose lifespan is over, there must be a proper way of driving them off the city center. If you could, well, because villages can be managed, maybe you can send them to other, local roads that connects villages and other areas, but not in the city center, not also allowed to go interstate distance journeys, because a lot of problems could emanate around the line. So there should be a proper mechanism that checks whether it is the issue of the lifespan, whether it is the issue of bad management of the vehicle that let it, even when the lifespan is not over, but it has depreciated beyond measures, that kind of vehicle need to be ridden off the roads. But today, how many of them have you seen being, ridden off our highways and the roads? They are all there competing.
Right, Honorable, it's really very interesting because a couple of times I've witnessed even those that have the responsibility of supervising and checking our vehicles on our roads, even go in rickety vehicles themselves, which is a subject of another day's discussion. So I would like to allow you 1 minute so you can talk to the viewer who has been watching us all this while.
Well, I want to sincerely appreciate this wonderful privilege of meeting the larger Nigerian public on this very arm of the TV station. And to say, indeed, a nation like ours, we have come a long way. Approaching 60 years of independence is not a joke. And by now, certain things we just have to, say we must work out ways of overcoming them, because any other thing short of that does not give us or portray us well in the Committee of Nations. And 60 years, when are we going to get it right? So honestly, I'm calling on government, wherever there are ongoing roads construction, they should expedite action to meet up with time deadlines, so that at the end of the day, the rate of death casualties will be minimized. And all other measures that need to be taken in order to curtail these unnecessary death casualties that we are facing both on the highways and even in the city centers of Nigeria. We need to find a way of eliminating them absolutely, so that Nigerians will be able to live the number of time and years that God has destined them to live and enjoy the nation that God has given us all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Right Honorable Joshua Izang Madaki, immediate past Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly. We appreciate you coming in to share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, my brother. It's a pleasure.
Viewer, for the past 55 minutes or so, we've been rubbing minds on two issues: the stamp duty percentage increase that tenants and those who want to lease anything would have to pay. I urge you that be a responsible citizen, pay your tax. And concerning our roads, well, if you must drive, don't drink. And if you must drink, please don't drive. Better still, drive carefully. I'm Donald Weze. I'll be seeing you next time on another edition of A National Talk.